An old man was walking through the desert with his donkey when he reached a village. The villagers greeted him warmly, offering him food and taking care of his donkey. During dinner, he was surprised to be offered camel milk, known for its notoriously bad taste. Curious, he asked about it, and they explained, "We've been cursed with an everlasting drought, so we save every drop of water we can find for our crops." "I can help you," the old man said. "I know how to bring rain, but first, I need a wide bucket of water." The next morning, word spread throughout the village. The people scurried to collect whatever little water they had left. After much effort, they managed to fill a bucket, which they gave to the old man. He then took the bucket and went inside his host's house. To the villagers' surprise, he started washing his dirty clothes. A curious child saw him through the window and rushed to tell everyone. The villagers, angry and worried, stormed over. "Shame on you, old man!" the chief yelled. "You're wasting our precious water when our children have none to drink." But just as the chief finished speaking, the sky darkened and clouds began to gather. Soon it started raining, and it rained for 5 days straight. The villagers' water reserves filled up, and everyone's needs were met. The old man was treated as a hero, and the chief apologized profusely for doubting him. As the old man was about to leave, the child who had witnessed him washing his clothes asked, "How did you do it?" "It's simple," the old man replied with a smile. "It always rains when I hang my clothes to dry." Sam and his wife Rachel were playing golf at the club when she drove a 300-yard tee shot straight down the fairway. Sam, impressed, said, "Wow, I've never seen you play this well before." Rachel smiled and replied, "I took lessons." A few days later, they were on the tennis court for mixed doubles, and Rachel was smashing her serves, never missing a point. Sam said, "Wow, I've never seen you hit like this before." Rachel, with a wink, said, "I took lessons." That weekend, they sat down for a nice dinner at home. Rachel brought out perfect plates of beef Wellington. Sam took a bite and said, "Delicious. I've never seen you cook like this before." Rachel proudly answered, "I took lessons." After dinner, she gave him that look, and they went upstairs. About 30 minutes later, Sam rolled over, panting, and said, "Wow, that was incredible, amazing, so hot, I want a divorce." Rachel, confused, asked, "A divorce? Why?" Sam sighed and said, "I can't keep up with all these lessons." A macho man married a beautiful woman, and after the wedding, he laid down his rules. "I'll come home when I want, if I want, and at whatever time I want. Don't expect any hassle from me. I expect a great dinner on the table unless I tell you I won't be home for it. I'll go hunting, fishing, drinking, and playing cards with my buddies whenever I feel like it, and don't you dare give me a hard time about it. Those are my rules. Got any comments?" His new wife looked at him and said, "No problem. Just know that there will be here at 7 o'clock every night, whether you're here or not." I had lunch with 2 of my unmarried friends. One is engaged, the other is a mistress, and I, the third, have been married for over 20 years. We were chatting about our relationships and decided to surprise our men by greeting them at the door, wearing a black bra, stiletto heels, and a mask over our eyes. We agreed to meet up in a few days to exchange notes. Here's how it went. My engaged friend. "The other night, when my boyfriend came over, I was wearing a black leather bodice, tall stilettos, and a mask. He saw me and said, 'You are the woman of my dreams. I love you.' Then we made passionate love all night long." The mistress. "I did the same. The other night I met my lover at his office. I was wearing a raincoat, and underneath just the black bra, heels, and mask. When I opened the raincoat, he didn't say a word but started trembling, and we made wild love all night." And then I shared my story. When my husband came home, I was wearing the black bra, black stockings, stilettos, and a mask over my eyes. When he walked in the door, he looked at me and said, "What's for dinner, Zorro?" It was the 1930s, and a wealthy banker and his wife were dining at an upscale restaurant when a stunning young woman approached their table. She gave the husband a big kiss, said, "I'll see you later," and walked away. The wife, glaring at him, demanded, "Who the heck was that?" "Oh," replied the husband sheepishly, "she's just my mistress." "Well, that's the last straw," the wife declared. "I've had enough. I want a divorce. I understand, said the husband. But remember, if we divorce, there'll be no more shopping trips to Paris, no more winters in Barbados, no more summers in Tuscany, no more expensive cars in the garage, and no more yacht club membership. But the choice is yours. Just then, a mutual friend walked in with a gorgeous woman on his arm. The wife asked, "Who's that woman with Jim?" "That's his mistress," the husband replied. The wife huffed and said, "Ours is prettier." One day, a gentleman's wife decides to host a classy dinner party and wants to serve escargot, so she sends her husband out to pick up some snails. On his way home, he runs into an old friend and stops to chat. The friend suggests, "How about grabbing a pint?" The man hesitates, replying, "I really should get home. My wife will be pissed if I'm late for dinner." After a bit more convincing, of course, he agrees to just the one drink, snails in hand. The two get to drinking, and hours fly by. Before long, the man looks up at the clock and realizes, "Oops, I'm 4 hours late for dinner." Panicked, he grabs the snails, stumbles out of the bar, and rushes home. As he trips on the front steps, a loud noise echoes, alerting his wife to his late-night arrival. She storms to the door, glares at him, and shouts, "Where the hell have you been? You're 4 hours late for dinner. Explain yourself, you drunk bastard." The man, looking down at the scattered snails and realizing he's in deep trouble, raises his fist with a confident look and says, 5 feet more, lads, we're almost there." A 5-year-old boy, after watching a story about an emperor on TV, turns to his mother and says, "Mom, I want 7 wives. One to cook for me, one to read to me, one to go for walks with me, one to sing for me, one to bathe me." His mother smiles and replies, "Well, then I guess I won't have to help you go to sleep at night." The boy thinks for a moment, then says, "No, that's not possible. I still want to sleep with you, Mommy." Tears well up in his mother's eyes, and she says, "Oh, my sweet boy." The boy then adds, "But who will sleep with your 7 wives?" The boy looks up and grins. "They can sleep with Daddy." Tears fill his father's eyes, and he says, "Oh, my sweet boy." A husband and wife sat down at a coffee shop in New York City. The wife noticed a young woman sitting nearby wearing the most stunning pair of shoes she had ever seen. "I'd love to know where she got those shoes," the wife said. "Maybe I should ask her." The husband raised his hand. "Allow me, my love?" The wife beamed. "What a gentleman." "Thanks, sweetie." The husband walked over to the young woman and asked, "Where did you get those shoes?" The woman smiled and replied, "I got them at a store just around the corner." "Nice. How much were they?" he asked. "Oh, about $500, she said. "Thanks for letting me know." The husband returned to his table, turned to his wife, and said, "She got them in Los Angeles." A man meets a beautiful, sexy girl, and he's instantly attracted to her. He invites her to a movie, but she says, "Listen, if you're just looking to sleep with me, you don't need to bother with dinners, movie nights, or anything like that. Just buy me a good Swiss Army knife." The guy thinks it over. He's not looking for anything long-term, and buys her a genuine Victorinox. They head to her place, and she opens a big chest in her closet, revealing that it's already half filled with Swiss Army knives. She then takes him to her bedroom for an unforgettable night together. The next morning, as they sit in the kitchen sipping tea, he asks, "Can I ask you something? What do you need all those knives for?" She smiles and explains, "Well, I'm young and beautiful now. I don't have trouble attracting men. They're the ones chasing me. But one day I'll be older, gray-haired, and I'll be the one looking for a piece of love. And then, do you have any idea what a young man would do for a good Swiss Army knife?" Many years ago, a wealthy woman with a passion for antiques and curiosities discovered a vase on her travels. She loved it so much that she decided to paint the entire display room the same color as the vase. She made an announcement, offering a large sum of money to anyone who could match the color of the vase with paint. Many painters came and tried, but none could quite get the color right to her satisfaction. Then one day, a painter arrived, took one look at the vase, and immediately promised that he could match the color. True to his word, after a quick examination, he created the perfect paint color, and the woman was thrilled, awarding him the job. This event made the painter famous, and he used his newfound reputation to build a thriving business. Years later, when he decided to retire and pass the business on to his son, the son asked, "Dad, I have one question. How did you manage to match the paint to the vase so perfectly?" The old man smiled and said, "Can you keep a secret?" "Of course." The father leaned in close, lowered his voice, and whispered, "I painted the vase." At my first job, I worked in an orange juice factory, but I got canned. I just couldn't concentrate. Then I became a lumberjack, but I couldn't hack it, so they gave me the axe. After that, I tried tailoring, but I wasn't suited for it, mainly because it was a so-so job. Next, I worked at Starbucks, but I had to quit. I got tired of the same old grind. Then I tried being a chef, hoping it would add some spice to my life, but I just didn't have the time. I worked in a deli, but any way I sliced it, I just couldn't cut the mustard. My best job was as a musician, but I found I wasn't noteworthy. I studied for a long time to become a doctor, but I didn't have any patience. I then worked at a shoe factory, but I just didn't fit in. After that, I became a fisherman, but I realized I couldn't live on my net income. I managed to get a job at a pool maintenance company, but the work was too draining. Then I tried working at a workout center, but they said I wasn't fit for the job. After many years of searching for steady work, I finally became a historian, but I realized there was no future in it. My last job was at a muffler factory, but that was too exhausting. So I decided to try retirement, and I found out I'm perfect for the job. Newlywed Liam visits Father Charles for advice. He greets the priest and says, "Father, I need to talk to you." Father Charles asks, "Is this a confession, my son?" Liam shakes his head. "No, Father. It's something else. I need clarification." The priest takes Liam to his private chamber and says, "Tell me, Liam, what's troubling you?" Liam hesitates for a moment before asking, "Father, why do some women try to change their husbands after marriage? My friends keep teasing me about it." The priest chuckles knowingly and replies, Liam, it's not that complicated. You see, as the bride walks down the aisle, her mind becomes enchanted by three things: the aisle, the altar, and the hymn being sung. Aisle, altar, hymn. As she repeats those words to herself, I'll alter him, I'll alter him, it plants a thought. By the time she reaches her groom, she's already thinking, I'll alter him. On a hot summer's day, a family went to the beach, only to find a black flag flying, warning everyone not to swim. The young boy desperately wanted to go into the water, but his mother firmly said no, so they stayed on the sand, building castles and playing in the sun. After a while, the father grew restless. Turning to his wife, he said, "Keep an eye on the boy. I'm going in for a swim. There's no way the sea is really that dangerous." He waded into the water, ignoring the warning. Watching this, the boy turned to his mom, confused. "Mom, why does Dad get to go in the water, but I can't?" His mom replied patiently, "Because you and your dad are different. There are some things he can do that you can't." "Is it because Dad's a really good swimmer?" the boy asked. "Not exactly," said the mom. "Is it because he's big and strong?" "Nope," she replied. "Then why can he go in and I can't?" Without missing a beat, she said, "Because Daddy has life insurance." A woman overhears her 7-year-old son playing with his toy train set. She listens as he enthusiastically moves the train around the track. He stops the train and announces, "This stop is Los Angeles. If this is your stop, get the bloody hell off. If it's not, stay the bloody hell on." Shocked, the mother continues listening. The boy moves the train around for a minute and stops it again. "This stop is Seattle. If this is your stop, get the bloody hell off. If it's not, stay the bloody hell on." Furious at her son's foul language, she storms into the room and says, "Young man, we don't talk like that in this house. You're in time out for an hour." An hour later, she allows him to return to his toy, but warns him, "If I hear anything like that again, the train is gone for good." The boy nods and resumes playing with his train. The mother listens closely as he stops the train and says in a much calmer tone, "This is New York City. If this is your stop, please get off. If it's not, please stay on. And if you're wondering why the train's running an hour late, you can thank the cow in the kitchen." It was early morning, and an old man in his 80s got up and started putting on his coat. His wife looked at him and asked, "Where are you going?" He replied, I'm going to the doctor. Why? Are you sick? She asked. No, he said. I'm going to get me some of those new Viagra pills. At that, his wife slowly got up from her rocker and started putting on her sweater. He turned to her and asked, Where are you going? I'm going to the doctor, too, she said. Why? He asked. She looked him square in the eye and replied, If you're going to start using that rusty old thing again, then I'm going to get a tetanus shot. A sales representative stops by a small manufacturing plant to pitch his products. As a gesture of goodwill, he hands the manager a box of cigars. No thanks, the manager says. I tried smoking a cigar once, but I didn't like it. Not giving up, the salesman opens his display case and, hoping to sweeten the deal, says, How about we discuss this over a round of drinks? The manager shakes his head. No thanks, I tried alcohol once, but I didn't like it. Glancing out the office window, the salesman notices a golf course nearby. Well, you must play golf. I'd love to invite you as a guest at my club. The manager smiles politely. I played golf once, but I didn't like it. At that moment, a young man walks into the office. The manager beams and says, Let me introduce you to my son, Mike. The salesman raises an eyebrow and smirks. Let me guess, an only child? A 15-year-old Amish boy and his father visited the city for the first time. As they wandered through the bustling streets, they were awestruck by everything they saw. Eventually, their curiosity led them to a mall. Inside, they marveled at the shiny floors, the bright lights, and the endless stores. But what really caught their attention were two gleaming silver walls that would slide apart and then back together again. Father, the boy asked, what is this? The father, who had never encountered an elevator before, replied, Son, I have no idea. I've never seen anything like it. As they watched in fascination, an elderly woman in a wheelchair rolled up to the shiny walls and pressed a button. The walls slid open and she wheeled herself into a small room. The walls closed, and the boy and his father stared as the numbers above the walls lit up one by one. They continued to watch as the numbers stopped at the top, then began lighting in reverse order on the way back down. When the walls finally reopened, out stepped a stunning 24-year-old blonde. The father's jaw dropped. Without taking his eyes off the young woman, he leaned over to his son and whispered, Junior, go get your mother. A man walks into a bar and says to the bartender, Give me 10 shots of whiskey. The bartender pours the drinks and asks, Rough day? What's wrong? The man sighs, I just found out my brother is gay, and he's marrying my best friend. The next day, the same man walks into the bar and orders 12 shots of whiskey. The bartender raises an eyebrow and asks, What happened this time? The man groans, I just found out my son is gay and he's marrying my business partner, who's 30 years older than him. On the third day, the man stumbles into the bar and demands 15 shots of whiskey. The bartender, concerned, finally asks, Is there anyone in your family who likes women? The man takes a deep breath, looks up and mutters, Apparently my wife does. A woman starts dating a doctor. Soon she finds out she's pregnant. But neither of them knows what to do. About 9 months later, right as she's about to give birth, a priest walks into the hospital for a prostate infection. The doctor looks at the woman and says, I have an idea. After I operate on the priest, I'll give him the baby and tell him it's a miracle. The woman, unsure, asks, Do you think it'll work? The doctor replies, It's worth a shot. So the doctor delivers the baby, then operates on the priest. After the operation, he goes to the priest's room and says, Father, you're not going to believe this. The priest, still groggy, asks, What happened? The doctor says, You gave birth to a child. The priest incredulously exclaims, That's impossible. The doctor insists, I just did the surgery. It's a miracle. Here's your baby. 15 years pass, and the priest decides it's time to tell his son the truth. He sits the boy down and says, Son, I need to tell you something. I'm not your father. The boy, confused, asks, What do you mean, you're not my father? The priest sighs and says, I'm your mother. The archbishop is your father. An elderly man rear-ends a young guy driving an expensive sports car. Enraged, the young man jumps out of his car and starts yelling, "Look what you did to my car! You're going to give me $10,000 right now, or I'm going to beat you to a pulp." "Oh, my," says the old man. "I don't have that kind of money. Let me call my son. He trains dolphins, and he'll know what to do." "Dolphins?" the young man scoffs, rolling his eyes. "Yeah, right." The old man pulls out his phone, dials his son, and just as his son answers, the angry man snatches the phone from him. "So you're a dolphin trainer, huh? Well, your dad just rear-ended my car, and I need 10 grand right now, or I'm going to beat both of you to a pulp. So train those dolphins to bring you some cash." "I'll be there in 10 minutes, comes the calm reply from the other end. True to his word, exactly 10 minutes later, a pickup truck pulls up. A huge guy steps out and calmly walks toward the angry man. Before the young man can react, the huge guy rams his head into the bully's forehead. The young man crumples to the ground, and the giant gently catches him, leaving him in a heap on the side of the road. After finishing the job, the man turns to the elderly man and says, "For the last time, Dad, I train seals, Navy SEALs, not dolphins." A man is desperately searching his house for his thesaurus, which he uses all the time. After checking every nook and cranny, he still can't find it. Frustrated, he decides to ask his family members. First, he approaches his daughter, who loves to read. "Man, did you take my thesaurus?" "Daughter, I didn't take your thesaurus, Dad. I was just reading my favorite book. Maybe ask my brother. He always tries to reach into high cabinets, so he might have taken it to stand on." The man nods and goes to find his son, who's sitting on the couch playing video games. "Man, did you take my thesaurus?" "Son, of course not. I hate reading. Ask Mom. She might have it." So the man goes to look for his wife, but she's not home. He starts getting even more frustrated and decides to head to the stables to search for her. When he walks in, there's just their horse standing there. "Man, I don't suppose you know where my thesaurus is, do you?" The horse responds, "Nope. Oops, I mean nay." "I was sitting in the waiting room of the hospital while my wife was in labor. The nurse walked out and said to the man sitting next to me, 'Congratulations, sir. You're the new father of twins.' The man grinned and said, 'How about that? I work for the Doublemint Chewing Gum Company.' He then followed the nurse to his wife's room. About an hour later, the same nurse entered the waiting room and announced, "Mr. Smith's wife has just had triplets." Mr. Smith stood up and said, "Well, how do you like that? I work for the 3M Company." At this point, the man sitting next to me got up and started to leave. I asked, "Where are you going?" He looked at me and said, "I think I need a breath of fresh air." Then he added, "I work for 7-Up." A man was out to lunch with his friend, explaining how he had been studying healthy eating and its effects on the body. "After all," he said, "you are what you eat." The man sat down with a salad, light vinaigrette, and a small, unsweetened green tea, while his friend had a fried chicken sandwich, a large Coke, and fries with extra salt. As they were about to start eating, the man realized he forgot to grab a fork for his salad. While he went to get one, his friend decided to play a prank and dump some extra salt into the man's tea. The man returned, sat down, took a sip of his tea, and immediately gagged, spitting it all over the table. Furious, he shouted, "What the hell did you do to my tea?" The friend, grinning, replied, "Didn't you say that you are what you eat?" The man's expression shifted from anger to disappointment. "Well, if that's true, I guess that makes you a little saltier than I thought." There was an old man who lived by a forest. As he grew older, he began to lose his hair, until one day on his deathbed he was completely bald. On that day, he called his children together for a final meeting. "Look at my hair," he said. "It used to be so thick and magnificent, but now it's completely gone. My hair can no longer be saved. But look outside at the forest. It's a beautiful, thriving place with so many trees. Yet, just like my hair, eventually this forest will lose its trees. Sooner or later, it will be as bald as I am." He continued, "What I want from you, my children, is this. Every time a tree is cut down or dies, plant a new one in my memory, and tell your children to do the same. It shall be our family's duty to keep this forest strong as a living tribute to me." And so they did. Each time the forest lost a tree, the children replanted one, and their children did the same. Generations passed, but the forest remained as lush and beautiful as it had always been. All because of one man and his receding airline. There once lived a family of balloons, a mommy balloon, a daddy balloon, and a kid balloon. Every night, the kid balloon would get nightmares and sneak into his parents' bed while they were asleep. The daddy balloon constantly told the kid balloon not to do this, as it disrupted his sleep schedule. But as the kid balloon grew older, he found that he was getting bigger and bigger, and he didn't fit in the bed anymore. So one night, the kid balloon had an idea. He quietly released a little air from mommy balloon to make more space. The next night, he did the same with daddy balloon. On the third night, no matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't fit. So in a moment of desperation, he decided to release some air from himself. The next morning, the daddy balloon woke up, still exhausted from the sleepless night. He saw what had happened and was enraged. He turned to his son and said, "Son, you've gone too far. You've let us down. You've let your mother down, but most importantly, son, you've let yourself down." One day, a young patient visited the doctor looking frustrated. The patient said, "Doctor, every day I buy $50 worth of medicine, but I still haven't seen any improvement." The doctor, trying to lighten the mood, smiled and replied, "Well, today, why don't you buy only $40 worth of medicine? That way, you'll have a $10 benefit right away." A mosquito flew off a girl's lips and landed in a priest's tea. The priest fished it out and tossed it aside, saying, "You rascal! Enjoy your fun over there and take your cleansing elsewhere." On the wedding night, a young man was anxiously pacing outside his room, searching for something with great intensity. His mother, noticing his distress, approached him and asked, "Son, what are you looking for out here?" The young man replied, "Mom, I'm looking for the bottle of oil that was kept here. I need it for tonight." His mother chuckled and said, "Oh dear, you're looking for the wrong thing. On a night like this, saliva works better than oil." A blonde woman decided to throw an elaborate wedding for her rooster and hen. She invited all her friends and even set up a little altar in the backyard, complete with tiny rings and a flower bouquet. As she was busy preparing the bride and groom for their big day, a neighbor, who had been watching the scene unfold with growing confusion, couldn't resist asking, "What on earth are you doing?" The blonde woman, looking completely serious, replied, "Well, my hen stopped laying eggs a while ago, and I was getting worried. I tried everything. Extra feed, more sunlight, even playing her some relaxing music, but nothing worked." The neighbor, still puzzled, nodded slowly. "So why the wedding?" The blonde woman smiled confidently. "It's simple. I figured that if she gets married, she'll skip the eggs and go straight to having baby chicks." An old man once stumbled upon a young couple engaged in some rather romantic mischief in a secluded spot. His face turned red with anger, and he quickly approached them. "What do you two think you're doing?" he barked. "I'm going straight to your families to report this shameful behavior." The young woman, utterly terrified, immediately began to plead. "Please, Grandpa, don't report us. I beg you. I'll do anything you ask. Just don't tell anyone." The old man paused, his stern expression softening a bit as he thought it over. A mischievous grin slowly spread across his face. "Anything you say?" he muttered, rubbing his chin. The woman replied, "Yes, I'll do anything you ask." He decided to take her up her offer. With a bit of a struggle, he started fumbling with his pants, attempting to rise to the occasion, but try as he might, nothing seemed to be working. He strained and grunted, but it was clear that time had taken its toll on his abilities. After a few more futile attempts, the old man finally gave up, his frustration evident. He looked at the girl and sighed. "You know what? Forget it. I'll just stick to my original plan and report you after all." A newly minted blonde woman doctor was eager to start her practice and help her patients. One day, an elderly man walked into her clinic, limping and wincing in pain. "Doctor," he groaned, "my legs have been hurting so much lately. The pain is unbearable." The blonde doctor, full of enthusiasm, smiled warmly and said, "Don't worry. I've got just the thing to help you." She walked over to him, placed a chair nearby, and said, "Please have a seat." The elderly man, grateful for her kindness, sat down slowly. The doctor then knelt down, gently placed her hands on his legs, and started massaging them. There, she said soothingly. I'll make sure you feel better in no time. The elderly man looked a bit surprised, but decided to go along with it. After a few minutes of the doctor's diligent massaging, he finally spoke up. Doctor, I appreciate the effort, but I actually came in to see my grandson, Bob, who works here. He's the one I need to talk to. A lady sits down on a train, and the man sitting next to her turns to her and says, Lady, that is the ugliest baby I have ever seen. If that baby looks in a mirror, it's going to shatter. You ought to put a bag over that baby's head. That baby is just hideous. Horrified, the woman stands up and calls for the conductor. Conductor, this man has insulted me. The conductor quickly responds, I'm so sorry, ma'am. What he did is completely unacceptable on this train. I'll take care of him, but for now, please come with me. We'll give you a nice seat in the first-class carriage. And here's a banana for your monkey.